And we should be live. Welcome everyone, if you can hear me already. Hi Laurie. Cool, you should be able to hear me now. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me properly and if the signal is good. Perfect, great to hear. Thank you very much, Tish. So we've got about 11 minutes before to start. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And Claudia is here. Nice to see you here, Claudia. And Sam is here as well. Welcome. Perfect. I was a bit worried about the signal earlier because we had Gay Pride on the other side of the river here. But I think now that it's over, the signal is going to be perfect. Hi Mary, welcome. Perfect, great. Thanks everyone. So we've got about 10 minutes. If anyone was completely new to me, if you've just clicked on this video randomly, you're very welcome. So I'm Natalie and I do live streams, live walks. So I take you to interesting places and I tell you some fascinating stories. Or sometimes the other way around. Sometimes I take you to fascinating places and tell you some interesting stories. But we've not started yet, we're just waiting for everyone to connect. Hi Caroline, welcome. Yeah, the light is good. The sun is going down a bit. So it should be the perfect timing to have a nice light. So it is nearly 8 p.m. UK time, and it is the 8th of June. So if any of you were watching this and it's no longer the 8th of June, you're probably watching a replay. Because I know sometimes it's a bit confusing on YouTube whether it's the replay or the live. I'm wearing a cardigan. Yeah, it's actually a bit chilly. It's been very windy today. So yes, it was Gay Pride. I didn't know. You know what? Sometimes I'm a bit dumb. I came out of the train station, and I thought, there's a lot of lesbians around here. Maybe I should be moving to Peterborough. And then a bit later, I saw some TV cameras or semi-professional cameras at least. And I was like, oh, we might be expecting a VIP in Peterborough today. And it's only later on that I saw a lot of flags and everything. So yeah, it is Gay Pride. I had never been to a small Gay Pride. You know, I'm used to Brighton, which is probably the best pride in the world, or London, or Marseille or Rome, so it was interesting to go to a small one. I think I've got a photo actually, let me show you. There we go. So that was, it was in a little, like a little allotment, you know, like a little garden. Hi Laurie, and welcome everyone that just joined. So yeah, interesting. Very family-friendly pride with a lot of kids and a lot of grannies and everything. In London, it's not like that. In London, pride, everyone is wasted. You've got the family pride as well, which is in a graveyard, in St. Giles graveyard. That's where, salut Mike, that's where Elizabeth Stride got married. So you've probably been with me to that graveyard. So that's where they do the family pride in London. But the normal pride, it's mainly adults, very intoxicated adults. Same in Brighton. In Brighton, it's party time as well. I haven't been to the one in Sydney, that's true. I haven't been to San Francisco either, so there probably are some amazing prides I've not been to, you're right. Right, let me see. We've got 6 minutes to go. And let me flip this camera around so you can see where I am. So we are in sunny Peterborough by the River Nin. If we followed the river all the way down that way, I think it goes into the sea, somewhere around Sandringham, really. I'm actually relieved that the signal is good. I was a bit worried because the Pride was right on the other side of the bridge there, and when you have any type of events, you know, you have a lot of people coming through and they steal your internet. You had a brain surgery, Emma. Oh, I hope everything went all perfectly and that you're all better. And yes, hospitals can be very boring. I'm lucky to have never had to spend a long time in there. Yes, very peaceful. And Peterborough in general is actually lovely. I was very pleasantly surprised because, as you might know, it had been voted worst place to live in the UK 3 years in a row. So I expected far worse. I mean, you know, I've taken you to places like Croydon before. That's not amazing, but here it's lovely. ITD. Am I on my bicycle? No. I took the train. My bicycle is in King's Cross station, so I'll collect it in a few hours. So we've got, let me check, 4 minutes to go. And I see I have an email, so if it's an email from any of you that drop me a little coffee on Buy Me a Coffee or on PayPal, thank you very much in advance. I think that might be a notification for that. Or it could be any random emails, who knows. My face is so bright so I can see the chat. I have to move my face this way so I can read out. There we go. With Prism, the writing, the chat is white, so when the background is white, you don't see anything on my face. Oh, there we go, now I can read. Oh, you went to Peterborough on the school trip? Oh, did you go to the Cathedral then? You probably did, yeah. And welcome, Herbivore. Nice to see you here. So we've got a couple of minutes before to go. Thanks, Natasha. So we are, if you're wondering, we are about I think it's about 75 miles north of London. So it took me about 55 minutes on a train. The reason I took you here, it's because because I've been to Skegness a lot in the last couple of years for work. I had some free credit on LNER company, and so that allowed me to have like £20 off a ticket, so I didn't pay too much to get here today. So that's good. I thought I might as well take you somewhere exciting. Well, I probably could have gone to Lincoln as well, which is beautiful, but there's probably tons of YouTube videos about Lincolns. I think Peterborough is probably not covered as much. Oh, you have a friend that lives there? Cool. Right, let me gracefully stand up, because it's gonna be time to start. My bum is wet. from the ground. It's the floor was, it doesn't look wet, but actually when you sit on the grass for too long, then you get a wet bum. And of course I'm wearing grey trousers, so it's gonna look very wet, but hey ho. All right, let me see, 1 minute to go. Thank you for bringing you somewhere exciting. Well, exciting, I'll let you be the judge of that, you'll see, but I definitely liked it. I think it's quite cool here. And Bonnie is here, welcome Bonnie. Can I find you a lesbian lover? Well, Pride has just finished. I should have taken you a couple of hours earlier here, because they're probably going home now. Or going to the bars, but I don't know if they have many gay bars here. Last time you were in Peterborough was in '86. It probably was a bit different then. It's a city that keeps changing. I think they just have a new university, so it still changes very much. Right, what time it is? It is officially time to start. It is 8 p.m. UK time, so welcome everyone. Let's flip this camera around and let's go. So we are by the beautiful River Nene in Peterborough, and we are in the south of town at the moment, and we'll head down towards the town centre. So although I've done my homework, I don't actually live here. I've come here for the first time today, so feel free to ask me any questions in the chat. Of course, use the chat as much as you'd like. It's always nice to see that you're still here and everything is working properly. But don't expect me to know every single building, because I've only been here for a few hours. Now, this tour is called Dark Tales of Peterborough, so I guess I need to let you know about a few dark story that we had here. Hi Elaine, nice to see you local. So we've got one extremely shocking and infamous serial killer that is from Peterborough. A very recent one, 2013. She's probably one of the worst lady killers in this country. And although I've just said serial killer, technically she was a serial killer because she killed a few. It's known as the Peterborough ditch murders, but really I would call her more of a spree killer, because it was out of 14 days. Serial killers, they usually have like a cool down period. You know, they'll commit a murder and then it goes quiet, and then they'll have to do one again. Joanna Dennehy, that's her name. She was more of a spree killer, if you ask me. She lived on the south part of town, so on the other side of the bridge there. She had a perfectly normal childhood, with some middle class parents, decent education, and according to her mother, she was a lovely child. And through her teenage years, she went a bit wild, really. She started drinking, and she actually met a boyfriend that was 6 years older, and she left her parents at the age of 14. She ended up she was semi-homeless, and she was committing some robberies to live and to supply themselves alcohol and drugs. And she ended up in prison for a few years. Then she came out, and she moved here in the south side of town. Her landlord was a gentleman called Kevin Lee. He had a few accommodations here, and he was renting them to people that were struggling. Quite a few of them were actually just out of prison. When she met him, she told him that she was out of prison because she had killed her dad, because he had raped her. Big fat lie. She had been in prison for robbery and stuff like that. She also told him that she had burned people and everything. That didn't stop him from having an affair with her. So she lived in one of his flats. She didn't actually pay rent, and she was in charge of collecting the rents for him. She had a friend that was over 7 foot tall, so the two of them would go around and collect the rent from the properties. She was often scaring them, into giving the money. And one day, Kevin, I think 44 years old he was, something around that age, father of 2, married. His body was found in a ditch just outside of Peterborough. Not only his body, but he had been posed in a quite shocking position. He was wearing a black dress, a lady's dress. His bum were exposed and lubricated, and an object had been inserted in his bum. So that looked staged. The police didn't quite know where to start because he was a quiet father, married, and they started looking into his entourage. Now his wife actually knew that he was going to meet Joanna, so she suspected her pretty much straight away. And when the police got to Joanna's flat, they're all underwater, the swans. When the police got to her flat, she was not there. They found a mattress full of blood, but that was not Kevin's blood. There was a bit of his blood, but there was also blood from a different gentleman. So the police had a feeling that they were going to find more bodies. And there's another gentleman, George Chapman, that went missing. Chapman actually lived in the same building as Joanna, and he did not really like her the way she was doing things. The way she was violent to collect all the rents. The little building, by the way, this used to be the costume house. So back in the day, some people are a bit excited. Back in the day, that's where they used to store the goods before the taxes were paid. When the goods were coming from the River Nin before we had the trains. So if you didn't pay for all that, the goods would be stored in here. Thank you very much, HTP. That's very nice of you. And anyway, back to Joanna. She was nowhere to be seen. But they found the CCTV footage of her at a petrol station, and they were managing to locate the car. So the bridge here, it's the oldest one in town. It was actually built by the monks of the abbey. I'll tell you a little bit more about the abbey in a moment. So yeah, eventually they were able to interesting motto, to locate the car. They had run off towards the Welsh border. I said there because she was with her big friend, the gentleman that was over 7 foot tall. They had stolen quite a few goods to survive, and they were in a little town called Hereford. Very quiet, peaceful town by the Welsh border, and she wanted to kill. They actually met another guy there that was a friend of her friend. They got him in the car. She actually threatened him as well, and she wanted victims. She wanted to kill. She said no women, no children. She wanted any men, and she actually stabbed 2 dog walkers in that little town. At that point, you had like at least 10 police cars running after them. And I mean, crazy chase, really. She was eventually apprehended, and at the police station she was super chilled. She was flirting with the police officers. I mean, some kind of behavior that is so odd. And at that point they found 2 more bodies in Peterborough countryside in the ditch. One was a young man called Lucas, a Polish national that was living here, that was having an affair with her. So she probably invited him to her flat to have some sex, and she stabbed him. Very violent attack. So it was his blood that they found in her flat. And the other body was poor George Chapman, 56 years old. He was an alcoholic, so she probably attacked him when he was not in his full capacities. So yeah, crazy case, and she had no remorse, nothing. She actually confessed at court at the Old Bailey, but she probably wanted her moment of glory, you know. There's actually a video footage of her at the police station when she's checking in for suspicion of murder, and she says, yeah, murders with an S. And she says to the police officer, oh, that could be worse. I could have been ugly, fat, and black. Like, what? And the police officer actually behind her is like, oh, I'm not sure that's worse. So yeah, incredibly racist as well, and just horrible, on like trying to be funny and flirtatious when she's just attacked 2 innocent men in a park and killed 3 more in Peterborough. I mean, crazy lady. She's still in prison today. And she actually met the woman of her life in prison. They're getting married. Would you believe the other lady? I think her name is Haley. She's now out of prison. The other one, she was in prison for robbery. She decided to change her name to Dennehy. I mean, it's mad. Like, it's mad. She actually took the name of a serial killer. So yeah, they're very much in love. Of course, one is in prison, one is out. But yeah, crazy story. Insane, really. Her mother says she doesn't, you know, she had not seen her since the age of 14, and she doesn't even think that it is her daughter that did that. For her daughter is the little girl that left at the age of 14 and never came back, really. So yeah, crazy case. Anyway, you might see a beautiful bell here. This is because straight ahead, this used to be a bell foundry. They've supplied, the guy was Henry Penn. They've supplied bells for all those churches. I was there the other day, Mapletrop, when I went to Skegness. So a lot of bells. 2 of the churches we'll see today, St. John the Baptist as well as the Cathedral, their bells came from that foundry. Right, so then there's another lady that comes from Peterborough that you might have heard of. Well, I know we have a few Jack the Ripper enthusiasts in the chat. You might know there are a few victims that people have assumed might be victims of the Ripper, but we don't know for sure. One of them is Alice Mackenzie. Mackenzie was a lady in her 40s. Potentially a sex worker as well, and she came from Peterborough. She was killed on 17th of July 1889, so quite a few months after the last known murder. The last known murder of Jack the Ripper was I think it's 9th of November 1888. So, you know, 9 months earlier, really. So that would have been Mary Jane Kelly. After Mary Jane Kelly, there are no victims that all ripologists agree on. But Alice, she was also known as Clay Pipe Alice because she smoked a lot. She smoked a lot of, well, you would have guessed, clay pipes. And actually, Peterborough was known for clay. Underground, there's a lot of clay here. So the main industry before to start doing bricks and all that, it was actually clay items. So Alice, she had a boyfriend. She lived around Whitechapel. And that night, she had a domestic. She had an argument with her boyfriend. So she went out. According to the boyfriend, that's the only reason why she left that late. Imagine you having an argument with your partner, she goes out for fresh air, and she ends up being murdered. I mean, you probably feel extremely guilty. Her body was found in a little street called Castle Alley, or it was called Castle Alley at the time. It's very close to, well, on my Jack the Ripper tour, we've been around there. It's very close to the site of the famous non-clue, you know, where they found Catherine Edo's piece of apron. Her throat had been cut very deep, almost from here to here, and she did have some cuts on the abdomen. So doctors at the time couldn't agree on whether it was Jack the Ripper or not. Hi Rebecca, nice to see you here. The extent of the injury was far less concerning than the other victims, but did the killer get interrupted? There used to be a night watch in that area. You might know after the Jack the Ripper murders, they created the Whitechapel Vigilante Committee and all that, so you had some people watching on the streets. But nearly a year later, they had stopped those watchmen. Did the killer know? And is it because of that he went out on stroke again? We don't know. You'd have to remember that at the time the press wanted Jack the Ripper to come back because that was money, you know, they'd be selling a lot of newspapers. So of course all over the press they would blame Jack the Ripper for the murder, but it probably wasn't. We'll probably never know now. Anyway, this is the town hall. Beautiful building. This is Greg's. That's where I went for a sausage roll earlier. Because would you believe, YouTube gave me a sausage roll. They sent me, because I'm such a valued YouTuber, of course, such a valued content creator, they sent me a code for a Greg's sausage roll. So I had a free sausage roll. Thank you, Google. Very nice of you. And let me show you the monument here. Hello. The monument for, so that's for all the people of Peterborough that died in conflicts across the world. It's from 2012 because the war monument was actually a bit hidden, so they've done this one. I've said hello already. Hello again. And it's about TD, I think it's about 15 degrees now. Sorry, there was a gentleman a little bit intoxicated. I think he wanted a hug because a hello was not enough. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the market square, and I'll show you where the cathedral is. I don't think we'll be able to get all the way to the cathedral, but don't worry, I've done a little video because they said they'll be closing the little garden in front of it after the evening songs. So that's probably done. Let's see. You love the Greg's sausage rolls? Well, would you believe that was actually my first one? I'm not a big sausage fan. I mean, I'm not a massive meat eater. Well, I could have had a vegan one, but I'm actually not a big fan of fake meat either. Hi, Trish. Anyway, this is the beautiful Market Square or Cathedral Square, and there is the Norman Gate. So that's the gate you'd use. Hello, to get to the cathedral. And the Starbucks here, that used to be the site of a little chapel for named after Thomas Becket. They actually had a relic. They had a piece of fabric that was full of blood from Becket, but that was stolen. You know, the relics at the time, somehow people believed that God might be able to do some miracles through the relics. So relics were quite valuable. That's a nice reflection here in the windows of the Starbucks. Even in the cathedral, there's a relic that was stolen. They had an arm of St. Oswald that was stolen as well. Officially, that was to protect it from the Normans when the Normans invaded. Anyway, so this is the Norman Gate, and I'm going to show you a little video of what it leads to. So here is the video, because I had to film it at the time. There we go. So that's the other side of the gate. So beautiful cathedral. It was not actually built as a cathedral. It was built as an abbey. So you had a lot of monks here, and the monks were not always very well behaved. Apparently, some of them would arrive drunk in the dormitory. Some of them even lied to some people that told them to go and give some money on the grave of a criminal, and then God could do some miracles. And of course, they were taking the money. And one of them even stole some jewelry from the St. Oswald shrine to give it to a lady. So some monks were a bit misbehaving. So this little way goes into the cloister at the back. Oh, letterbox. So this is George the VI. So quite an old one. And the cathedral is home to two very interesting graves. Well, three really. You have the grave of Katherine of Aragon. I'll tell you a bit more about her in a moment. You have the former grave of Mary, Queen of Scots. She's actually been moved, but she was originally buried here. And you have also the grave of a gentleman called Old Scarlet. He was a gravedigger. Usually gravediggers wouldn't be allowed to be buried into a cathedral, but he lived 98 years apparently. He buried both of the queens, Mary, Queen of Scots and Katherine of Aragon. Although when Katherine of Aragon was buried here, she was not buried as a queen. She was buried as a dowager Princess of Wales, because of course they considered the marriage to Henry as illegitimate. But I'll tell you a bit more about Katherine in a moment. For now, let me show you a little blue plaque. So this was actually a school, the building straight ahead. There are two very famous ladies that came out of that school. One of them we talked about the other day, Edith Cavell. So Edith was a nurse, an amazing nurse through the First World War. She was actually shot by the German in Brussels. And the other one was Florence Saunders. Florence was a bit like the Florence Nightingale of Peterborough. Right, I think that's the end of the video. I'm just gonna move that away. Kill. Oops, let me take it off. Perfect. So yeah, Florence was, she was a nurse as well, so she came out of the same school. She, well, at the time Peterborough was quite dirty, the streets and everything. And you know, well, back in the day, before to have the first hospital, I'll show you the first hospital here, the operations would be done at home, you know. They didn't understand bacteria, so they believed that infections were like some kind of weird reactions of the body after amputation or whatever it might be. And they still had some quacks, you know, and some weird treatment or medicines, you know. One lady apparently came here to the infirmary bringing a little boy that had a terrible cough. And she said she'd try some technique that she had been told, a magical cure. She had been told to go to steal some meat from a butcher and dig a little hole in the middle, place some hairs from or hair from the toddler, put it in the little hole, sew it back, and then feed it to a dog. So that's what she did, but that didn't work. So that's why she went to see the nurses. For example, when they had a toddler, sometimes they used to they used to bite their nails off. They wouldn't cut them off, because if you did cut off the nails of a toddler, he might end up being a thief, a robber. I mean, you know, they still had those crazy cures or treatment. So the job of a nurse like Florence Saunders was quite important. Oh, you like the doorway? Yes, Ian would have liked it as well. Anyway, in one of those buildings, I'm not sure which one, because the little pin drop was not very precise. Yes, TD, there's an Edith Cavell statue in Trafalgar Square. We've seen that statue in my last tour in Trafalgar Square. If any of you have missed it, I can put it I'll put it in the description if I remember. Anyway, let me show you. So we've got a flat here, a 2-bedroom flat for rent in one of those buildings. Again, I'm not sure which one, because I think it's facing at the back. How much do you think that would cost you? A 2-bedroom flat, a monthly rent. How much would you pay for a monthly rent? Right here on the Broadway in Peterborough. So you could, some people do commute to London. That'll be quite expensive, but you could, you know, you're less than an hour away. Peterborough is known as one of the new towns. It's not actually new as such, but in the 60s they completely redeveloped and enlarged the city. You know, after the Second World War, you know, we had the Blitz and a lot of accommodations were destroyed. In London, 2,300 says Mike. So we're looking for a full flat, 2 bedrooms to rent. It's a little bit less than 2,000 Trish, 2,700 says TD, Michelle says 600. I'll show you the answer. There we go, 1,300 and 500. So this is, I mean, in London, you'll have a bedroom in a flat share for this price. A decent bedroom, but only one, when here you have a full flat. So much cheaper than London. Right, let me remove those photos. So yeah, the city itself was massively redeveloped in the 60s as a new town to accommodate all the population that couldn't be housed in London after the war. Same for Milton Keynes and Northampton as well. They're part of those new towns. Anyway, let me take you to the part that is maybe a little bit not as nice. And let me tell you about Katherine. So, Katherine of Aragon, why is she buried here? She's buried here because she died in Cumbleton Castle, that is, I think it's about 20 minutes from here. So, for the ones that don't know, if you don't know Katherine of Aragon, she was the first wife of King Henry VIII. So I'm sure most of you know the story, at least the beginning of the story. Henry was first married to Katherine as a Catholic alliance. But Katherine was actually, she had been engaged at the age of 1 year old to Arthur. Arthur was actually the Prince of Wales. So Henry VII was the first of the Tudor kings. And the Tudor dynasty, let's say that their legitimacy on the throne was quite debatable. So they wanted to make alliances, and as soon as the little Prince Arthur was born, he was very quickly engaged to the daughter of Ferdinand of Aragon. Aragon at the time, so it was a big part of Spain. You had two big kingdoms in Spain, Aragon and Castile. But Aragon was also a big part of Italy, like Sicily. Actually, France and Aragon were fighting for control over the Italian peninsula. And so that was going to be a very good alliance. Of course, they were 1 and 2 years old, so they had to wait a little bit before to marry them. And although she's Katherine of Aragon, her mother was actually the Queen of Castile, so she was pretty much, all Spain. And her parents, as she was a little child, her parents were actually, they managed to reclaim Granada from the Muslims. Let me show you her grave. I've been into the cathedral this morning, so I took a little photo of her grave. There she is. The grave had actually been destroyed through the Civil War, so this is a modern one. And you might see quite a few pomegranates. She chose the pomegranate as her crest. Let me show you her crest as well. Because of Granada, so pomegranate, it's literally Granada. Which is interesting because pomegranates are actually a symbol of fertility. And we know that her fertility or her lack of fertility is actually going to be her downfall. Yeah, poor Catherine. While we're here, let me show you those two buildings. So this is, it used to be a college for teaching training. That's Victorian. George Gilbert Scott, the architect, same architect as St. Pancras Station. Today there are offices. You can't imagine being promised to someone with no choice of your own. Well, yeah, it does happen still today in quite a few countries though. But yeah, I couldn't imagine that myself, but yeah. And the building across the street here, so this was a Victorian courthouse that closed in the 80s. But most people from Peterborough, they would know it as the Fifth Avenue. It used to be a nightclub from the 80s to 2002. Now it's being refurbished. And I believe it is here now in that little street that they do the market. Anyway, back to Catherine. So she finally married Henry as a teenager. I think she was 16 and he was 15. And she moved to England. And then she never went back to her country. She never saw her native land again. She married Arthur, but then they got they called it the sweating fever. Catherine recovered, but not Arthur. So he died a few months after their marriage. So she was left in England alone, and her finances were not great because Henry VII didn't want to pay, and she was raised to be queen. I mean, the court of Aragon, the crown of Aragon was extremely powerful, so she needed money and she felt extremely lonely. And at some point, there were even some rumors that Henry VII himself might marry her. Luckily, that didn't happen because he would have been much older. And eventually, Ferdinand in Spain suggested that maybe she could marry the second son, so little Henry. He was very young at the time. He was just short of his 18th birthday when he married her. So she became the Queen of England. Now, you might know Henry as an obese tyrant. Well, Catherine actually got Henry in his best years. He was still a lovely young boy, very sporty, and he was very much in love with Catherine. They were together nearly 20 years, and Catherine was very popular internationally as well as with the British public. When Henry went to fight the French, she stayed here, she took charge. In Aragon, they could already have a lady on the throne, so she took responsibilities. She enjoyed it actually. But of course, we know the story. The problems were the fertility. They did have a baby boy, but the baby died a few weeks later. At the time, that was quite common. No reason to worry. Then they had another 2 or 3 baby boys that died. We don't know for sure how many. Then eventually, 7 years later, she had a daughter, Mary, that later on became the infamous Bloody Mary. At the time, it was still good. I mean, Henry was happy to have a living child at least. Of course, a boy would have been much better, but it was not too late. Eventually, though, after many years of waiting, Henry was convinced that Catherine was beyond the ways of woman. That's the way they would have phrased it at the time. Of course, she was getting older. She was about between 5 and 6 years older than him, so that's why he wanted a new wife. And he had just met Anne Boleyn, of course. Anne she was said to be very fertile because her mother had been pregnant 10 times. So, it's not because he wanted sex, he had as many mistresses as he wanted. He had actually had a baby boy with one of his mistresses, Henry Fitzroy. Fitzroy, it's often the name that they give to, apologies for the term, but bastards, illegitimate, they would have called them bastards at the time, because Fitzroy, it's son of a king in Latin, and Latin and Spanish. So when you see someone called Fitzroy, they're usually from a line of illegitimate children. And the problem with Catherine is that it was too late. Now it was getting too late. She couldn't give him a son anymore. So he wanted a new wife. He found a good excuse. In the Bible, it says you shouldn't marry the wife of your brother, or they'll be childless. Well, he was not childless, but a girl didn't count. So he actually asked the Pope for an annulment. Now, the Pope was actually completely controlled by the Holy Roman Empire, Charles V. At the time, the Holy Roman Empire, he controlled pretty much all Europe apart from France. And he controlled Rome. And that was Catherine's nephew. So there was no chance that the Pope would actually say yes. So Henry was like, stuff it then, I'll break up with the Pope. So he broke up with the Pope to create the Church of England. Catherine was sent away, she was banned from court, and she refused. She was convinced that her marriage was legitimate. She wanted to protect Mary, so she would stay in the line of succession. So she never actually agreed to be divorced. And she died in that castle, so 20 minutes from here. So that's why she's buried here. Now, has she been murdered? Some historians believe she has. Quick stop in the story. Above Franco Mama here, you had a recruiting center for the soldiers through the First World War. Thanks to ladies like Edith Cavell, she was a martyr, she was killed, but that motivated a lot of young men to go fighting, We even had a fighting donkey. There's a famous donkey, his name is Jimmy the donkey. I've not had time to go all the way to his grave, but he's got a grave in Central Park here. Yeah, they have a Central Park as well. And Jimmy was actually part of the Scottish Rifles, and he went to fight in France through World War I, the donkey, and he survived. So after that, he came back to Peterborough, and he actually raised a lot of money, charity money for the RSPCA. So yeah, that's the famous Peterborough donkey. Anyway, back to Catherine. Some believe that she might have been murdered. Now, officially she died in that castle. The ambassador to let Charles V, the Holy Roman Empire, know that Catherine was going to be murdered. So there were definitely a lot of rumors at the time. Now, when she did die, there was an autopsy. Chapuis was not really happy with the autopsy because he couldn't be there to assist. Now you might ask me, if she was murdered, why would Henry allow an autopsy at the first place? Well, probably because of pressure, because of the European pressures. Now, when they did dissect her, everything looked normal apart from her heart. Apparently, her heart was black. And there were a bit of growth coming out of her heart. Who knows? If you ask me, she died of a broken heart. We know the body reacts in mysterious ways. Officially now, modern scientists believe it was cancer. That wouldn't be surprising because her daughter Mary also died of cancer, so it could be, they could have some genetical dispositions. But yeah, some believe that she was poisoned. Anyway, this beautiful building, it is the Guildhall. The crest in the middle, that's the crest of Charles II. Charles II, when he came back to reclaim his throne after the Civil War, he was very much welcome into Peterborough because the town had been ransacked by the parliamentarians. Even the inside of the cathedral was very badly damaged, including Catherine's grave. Catherine's grave, by the way, it's meant to be a place for miracles. Apparently, in the late 16th century, there was 17th. Sorry, there was a gentleman that had some kind of a growth on his forehead, and he had a dream about being cured by Katherine of Aragon. He went into the cathedral. He found a little spot of puddle of water on the floor. He put his fingers into it. A week later, he was cured. So no more big growth on his forehead. So it's probably a miracle from Catherine's grave. You can see a bit of the cathedral in the background. And let me show you on the roof. There's a lady. Oh, is that a lady? No, there's a man. I don't know what that is. I've spotted two. If I remember, I'll show you the second one in a moment. I've spotted two of those pieces of art. I don't know what they represent. It is art, but it's not illegal street art because they would need the permission from the council to do that. Because if that was to fall and that hit someone on the pavement, that'll be the responsibility of the owner of the walls. So the council is probably aware, but I don't know why. I don't know why they are there. So yeah, I was telling you about the Civil War. I got distracted. I distracted myself. Yeah, Peterborough was really kind of in the middle between East Anglia was much more of a parliamentarian area, when the East Midland were more royalist. So Peterborough was kind of in the middle, and that's why it's been badly attacked and damaged. Now this is, of course, Pizza Express. Would you believe Pizza Express? It's actually from Peterborough originally. The guy that created the company, his name is Peter Boiseau. A very French name, I don't know why. We had a prisoner of war, a Napoleonic French prison here. After the war, some prisoners stayed, so he might have been a descendant of them. So yeah, he still is. No, he's dead. He died 2018, I think. But he was a businessman, a philanthropist, a politician. He's also bought the football club here and the theater as well. There's a huge, a former Odeon that is now a theater. That's also his. And you might see on top of Pizza Express, you might see King Henry VIII there. It's a modern one. It's from 1911 when they did the Boots pharmacy. Oh, I might have a photo actually. Let me show you. It used to be a Boots. Boots, it's actually a Victorian company. I think the first one was in Nottingham. But yeah, quite cool. So Henry is here almost looking towards the grave of his first wife. And if you ask me, his favorite wives, I think really she probably, although he would probably never admit it, you know, they were together nearly 20 years. He probably loved her very much, as opposed to all the wives after that that didn't last as long as at all. Anyway, let me show you St. John's the Baptist. You might wonder why we have a church so close to a cathedral, but the cathedral only became a cathedral in the 16th century. Right after the Reformation, actually. Before that, it was an abbey, so that was for the monks. So you needed a church here, a parish church for the normal people. So that's why we're lucky that it is still here, because apparently there were some plans in the 1700s to destroy it and make it a workhouse. That didn't happen, so that's good. Anyway. The second queen buried in the cathedral. I've not shown you her grave. Where is she? So this is Mary, Queen of Scots. Her body was moved, I think, in 1612 by her son, James I of England and VI of Scotland. So she's now reburied in Westminster Abbey. But that was her original grave, because she died at Fotheringay Castle, which is also quite close to here. It's about 20 minutes drive, I think. Well, I say she died. She was famously executed. So for those of you that might not know, Mary, Queen of Scots, she was a dowager Queen of France, because she had married the King of France, so then he died. She had been the Queen of Scots, but she had to abdicate for her son. And she would have been, so really, she should have been the heir to the British throne. If you think... Oh, thanks again, HTP. If you think that, if you are a strong Catholic and you think that Anne Boleyn's marriage with Henry was never legitimate anyway, then of course Elizabeth I should not have been the queen, then Mary, Queen of Scots, should have been. So really, in terms of the line of succession, she should have been the queen. In a Catholic's perspective. And she was often accused of plotting against the Queen, her cousin. And she was locked in a castle for many, many years. And one night she was told, "You'll be executed tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. So she was beheaded inside Fotheringay Castle with an audience of 300. And that was quite a gruesome execution. Apparently she came in a good mood. She was actually joking with the executioner. She's, you know, because she had a bit too many items of clothing around her neck, so she had to undress. And she said to him, "Oh, it's the first time I undress in such company." And he had a normal axe, and apparently it took 3 blows of the axe to actually take her head off. And then the head fall off, and usually they grab the hair, they hold the head by the hair, and they go, "I hold the head of a traitor." Now, the executioner, he actually grabbed the hair, but that was a wig, an auburn wig. So she had actually short gray hair, so the head actually fell down and rolled on the floor like a football. And very sadly, she had her little dog hidden under her dress. Imagine the shock for the poor little dog. He was actually full of blood, and he ran after his mistress' head. So quite a gruesome execution. And she was praying, you know, in Latin. Apparently the lips were still moving for a while. But we know that can happen. That is a nervous reaction. It happens sometimes with chicken and stuff. Anyway, here's another piece of art on the roofing. Again, I don't know who's the artist, what they're doing here, but it's clearly from the same series as the other. And let me show you this beautiful building. I'm not completely zoomed out, am I? Sometimes when you zoom in, then it stays stuck. I feel like I'm still a bit zoomed in. Well, never mind. I'll try again later on. I should have never zoomed in at the first place. So this is an amazing building, one of the oldest buildings left in town. Let me show you the little plaque. Anthony Gormley. Oh, how do you know? How do you know, Tish? So this is from the late 15th century, as you can see. Oh, Mike, I've not found the third one. I've only seen those two. Thanks. I didn't know who the artist was. So that building, by the way, it became a workhouse at some point in the 18th century, before they had to build a much bigger one in a bit on the outskirts of town. Anyway, let's go back towards the square. By the way, in the 19th century, Peterborough was still very much dirty. You had poo all over the floor. Ladies didn't want to walk on the streets because it was very dirty. They had to be on horse and carriages and stuff like that because they didn't want to get their dresses in the mud or in the poo. And the building straight ahead, it's now a pub, but back in the day, that's where a gentleman lived, a guy called John Adey. He was an engineer, a bit like Joseph Bazalgette in London. He redesigned, or he designed all the sanitation system to have fresh water in town. Mary was sent to France as a child to escape Henry. Yeah, Mary, you know what? She actually wanted her body to be taken back to France. She's been buried in a great cathedral, but really she wanted to be buried in a Catholic place, of course. So she wanted her body to be taken to France, but that clearly never happened. She was. She's the inspiration, apparently, for Lady Marmalade. I don't know how much of that is true, but apparently when she was in Scotland, she spoke French, and all her ladies in waiting were actually French. And one day she was sick. So all the staff were worried. They were like, Madame est malade, Madame est malade. So the lady is sick, Madame est malade, Madame est malade. So they were running across the castle saying, Madame est malade, Madame est malade. And of course the Scottish staff, they did not understand. All they could hear was Madame, so lady. So they were like, Lady Marmalade, Lady Marmalade, Lady Marmalade. So apparently that was the inspiration for the... much later on, I think it was a sex worker in Louisiana or something, but the name actually came from Mary Queen of Scots. Anyway, so I'm going to take you towards the museum. I need to speed up a bit because I'm getting worried about the timing, because I have a train in not so long from now. But let me show you the museum. So Peterborough has an amazing museum. It's home to the first murder victim in Britain. I'll show you the image. It's actually a body from we believe about 6,000 years ago, and there's a little arrow in his heart, in his rib cage. So he's the oldest murder victim we know. And let me turn around so you can see the beautiful mural. So that's Cowgate, as it would have looked like in 1908. So Cowgate, that's the street where we were. Cowgate always makes me think of Edinburgh, because at the Edinburgh Festival you have a lot of comedy shows on Cowgate. I guess we probably have Cowgates in many old towns, but for me, Cowgate is Edinburgh. Anyway, so the museum, it used to be, so when they closed, we had a prison here for the through the Napoleonic Wars, a lot of French soldiers were captured and they were sent into prisons, but the prisons were getting too busy. So they had to build one here. That was the first prisoner of war prison in the world, the first purpose-built. 5,000 were locked in there at the time. Sadly, 1,700 died because of typhoid and epidemics. And on top of that, you had 5,000 men together. They used to gamble. They had no money, so they were gambling their food. They were actually quite well fed, but they were gambling their food. So some of them actually didn't Not Colgate, Co-Gate, Co with a W, not Colgate, Co-Gate. But so yeah, so when they closed that prison, with the money left, they actually opened the infirmary, the dispensary. So that was one of the first one of the first hospitals, really, as we know them today. Well, the first one here anyway. And this is the building. So it was built as a home from a rich family. And now it is the museum. It's a free museum, so I've been there this morning. I didn't have enough time to look at everything precisely, but lovely museum. And they have an amazing collection. So those prisoners of war in the prison, they had a lot of time in their hands, and they used to do a lot of art or amazing things like this to keep themselves busy. So this is meant to be a French castle. Then you have a little mini replica of a guillotine. So they used to be able to sell those stuff at the market here. So they have a fantastic collection of those little items that were made by the French prisoners. And it is also the most haunted building in town. Let me show you another old building that is here, then I'll go back to the museum. They have, it's particularly the staircase that is said to be haunted. The ghost, there've been quite a few witnesses. Thank you. So this is also one of the oldest buildings in town. So that was a merchant house. I think it's 16th century. It could be 17th. Let's see on the plaque. Yeah, 16. So that's quite cool. Anyway, so yeah, the museum at the Ghost Museum. It's mainly in the staircase. I took a photo for you of the haunted staircase this morning. So it's not any ghost, it is the ghost of a soldier. The soldier is known to have originally came from Durham. Let me remove the photo. But he had moved to Australia, and through the First World War he came to fight in France, and he had. He was shot, so he was actually taken back to Portsmouth, where he was put on a train. He was meant to go down towards Halifax, and on the train he really felt his condition really deteriorated. So they told the train to stop at the first station they could stop. So that was Peterborough. So he was taken to the hospital here. So the building before to be the museum was the hospital. And his name is Thomas Hunter, and he died in here. He's also known as the Lonely Anzac. Anzac as Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. And he died in the building. And apparently the figure they see is often a figure wearing grey. Apparently it was the color that the wounded soldiers would wear at the time. Who knows? The lady that saw the figure first was Mrs. Yarrow. She was the wife of the only staff. In the 1930s, there was only one gentleman in charge of the museum, and they lived on site. One day, her husband went shopping, so she's cooking, and she heard her husband coming back. So she got excited. She went and looked in the staircases for her husband, and she saw that figure of a grey, a man wearing grey, and then he vanished into thin air. So that was the first sighting, and it was actually they put it on in the local press and everything, and then she saw it again. Then her daughter saw him as well, and over the years there have been a few other sightings of the same figure. So that's why they said that the museum is the most haunted building in Peterborough. I'm just walking back this way because that's where I'll go and take my train. And that's gonna be the end of the tour. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I hope I gave you a good little snippet of town. If you wanna come, make sure you go and visit the cathedral. The cathedral, you know what? The cathedral, it cost. Actually, let me make you guess. How much do you think it cost a minute to run the cathedral? It's mad. A minute. Thank you so much, Deidre. How much would you think it cost per minute to run the cathedral? It's crazy. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Trish. So what would you say? 1 minute. What would be the cost of running the cathedral for a minute? For 1 minute, for 1 minute. It looks like I'm back in time. 25p, $30 or so. I'll wait to see if there's any more guesses. Thank you, Linda. Well, I'll tell you, it cost £4 a minute to run the cathedral. And you know, the cathedral is actually free. We have a lot of cathedrals in this country that charge to get in. They don't. So they do a lot of amazing events, you know, like in the summer. This summer, there's going to be a teddy bear picnic, whatever that means. They do a lot of theater shows. You can also do yoga in the cathedral. So they have to find very ingenious ways to run the cathedral because it costs a lot. They also have a gift shop with a lot of interesting items. Oh, I was telling you about the Gravedigger, Old Scarlet. Well, when you go in the gift shop, they do Old Scarlet tea, Old Scarlet biscuits. They try to have a large selection of items to of course get a bit of money in to keep the cathedral up and running. You'd love the teddy bear picnic. It's only part of the event, so I don't know what else would be in there, but they always have massive events in the cathedral in the summer. Cool. I don't see any more questions, so thank you very much for coming today. If any of you were completely new to me, hope you'll give me a follow and you'll come back for more. and if you want to see a bit more of me, where are we going? Oh, Lambeth. Next Sunday we're heading to Lambeth. So that's the Victorian murderer, Thomas Neil Cream. You might remember this one. We've done it before. And the week after that, or about 10 days after that, we're going to Dover as well. So that's completely new. That should be cool. So that's coming up as well this month. Cool. Thanks everyone for coming today. Have a great evening, a great morning, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And I'm gonna run because I think my train is in 15 minutes. Bye bye. Have a good one. Thanks for coming. And if any of you drop me a little tip on PayPal or buy me a coffee, thank you very much in advance. That's always greatly appreciated. That helps me find some time to do some more research and to cover some new areas. Bye bye. If I can manage to close. There we go.